Have you been to a circus? Do you own an ivory statue? Do you use medicine? Unfortunately, with any of the above, you contributed to the abuse of animals. If you didn't know so, don't feel bad. But if you did, we need to talk. Animal abuse isn't a pleasant topic, but it's really important. There are three main parts of animal abuse, the triple S: science, slaughter, and slavery. Starting with science. As far as I know, all medicines and most soaps are tested on animals. A lot of you say they're only animals, but they're living creatures and feel pain. There are several negative sides of animal experiments. To begin with, there are 100 million animals living in cages, in labs, and they are waiting to be experimented on each day. Then secondly, one experiment costs several $million and takes several months to complete. Thirdly, these experiments aren't sufficient enough because animals aren't bioidentical with humans. But the worst thing is, animals often don't get painkillers. However, there is an alternative. We can test on cells or organs that we grow in laboratories or print with 3D printers. This wouldn't kill anyone, would be much more sufficient, and take much less time. The second S, slaughter. There are several huge slaughters around the world. For example, the Taiji dolphin slaughter. Japan rounds up around 100,000 dolphins each year, picks out the bottlenose dolphins, sells them to marine parks, and kills all the other dolphins despite their meat being too toxic to eat. Other big slaughter is the Canadian seal slaughter. In Canada, every year, 100,000 baby seals are killed for their fur. These baby seals are usually less than 6 months old, so they don't know how to swim, which makes it really easy for the hunters to kill them. And the problem is they only use the fur. They leave the rest of the body to rot on the ice. There are several other slaughters as well. For example, the African rhino and elephant slaughter. They kill 95% of these huge animals. Or the South African seal slaughter as well. However, the biggest slaughter is happening in front of our eyes. Each year, 3 billion animals are killed for us to eat. I know most of you don't want to be a vegetarian, but at least try to eat a healthy animal. The price of the meat indicates the living conditions of the animals. So if you buy a really cheap meat, then that animal probably was living in a huge shed with thousands or 100,000s of other animals and probably never saw daylight, couldn't move a lot, and was filled with antibiotics to keep it alive until we kill them. If you want to eat a healthier animal, go to a farmer's market or a natural shop. Here you can buy meat that's a little more expensive, but these animals usually were living in a meadow and saw daylight, could move, and had a much happier life. Third S, slavery. Around the world, every circus, marine park, and low-price zoo is basically a prison for animals. However, the worst are circuses and marine parks, because they force animals to perform tricks even if they are sick or don't want to perform. I saw a documentary about Ringling Brothers Circus. They have 10, 12 elephants on their show and around 40 in a breeding center. Here, they breed elephants for their shows and start training at a really young age. When the elephant is 2 years old, they tear it apart from its mother and chain it to the other side of the barn for half a year. Here, the elephant can't do anything, so it starts to cry, but after a while, it figures out it's no good for anything and gives up. And only after this starts the real training. During the real training, they beat up the animal with bullhooks and tase them with tasers to get the baby elephant in extremely uncomfortable positions, such as sitting down, lying, or making handstands. Turning back towards marine parks, to this day, they are still capturing orcas, dolphins, and beluga whales from the wild because animals aren't happy enough to reproduce in their tanks. Just to show this, in the wild, an orca would swim 100 miles a day, but in their captive tanks they can't, because their tank to them is like our bathtub to us. And there are several other things that orcas and dolphins suffer from, such as their food, the water quality, and even each other. In the wild, dolphins are social animals and live in so-called pods, which are families, and each pod has a different language. So in the captive tanks, if they put together 2 dolphins from a different pod, they can't communicate, and this leads to aggression. In the wild, dolphins could flee because there's the whole ocean, but not in tanks, and this leads to injuries and sometimes death. This aggression isn't only towards other dolphins, but towards humans as well. I'm sure you saw or heard about orcas killing trainers at SeaWorld. Well, guess what? There hasn't been a single documented case of an orca killing a person in the wild. And there has only been 1 documented case of an orca harming a human in the wild. So as you see, the abuse of animals is really important. And if you want to do anything about it, visit PETA.org. Actually, I found this quote on PETA.org that I would like to share with you. We should speak up to help animals because they can't speak up for themselves.